What's happening, people? Back again for another video. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. Today's going to be a bit of a different theme, as I mentioned during the week. Today, I'm going to talk about my previous playing experience. So here we go. And this is also going to link to players' perception, how the media have a perception, how certain pundits have a perception on certain players. So my previous professional playing experience started off, I believe, from 93, 95, should I say, up until 2001. 93, sorry, yeah, 95 up to 2001. I played for Chelsea for 6 years. And then from 2001 onwards up to 2003, I then went to Tottenham for 2 years. As most people, my aspirations was to become a professional footballer. I believe personally I should have become a professional footballer, as just my ability. I believe my talent I had should at least made me get somewhere in the game. I think a lot of people will probably relate to some of the stories that I'm going to actually run through. Maybe some youngsters are actually going through a similar thing, or maybe it's people that that might have been my age have actually experienced this as well. So starting off at Chelsea, enjoyed my time at Chelsea. I mean, the only thing I would say is that sometimes the travelling was bit uh, a bit long at times. We was training all the way down in Surrey, an area called Cobham. And obviously back in school, I had to literally we trained 3 times a week, which was Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then obviously the training on a Saturday was in Surrey. But during the week, we would train at Battersea Park. Um, so I would needed to just finish school as soon as possible, just get back to my house to get picked up to then go training. Was a very good experience being at Chelsea. Uh, I mean, in my age group, there was always players who were favoured more than others, which goes on quite a bit at different professional clubs. Problem what I had is that, and this kind of links to the kind of perception that was around back when I was playing. Now, back when I was playing, there was quite a shortage of left-footed players. And I say, being that I'm left-footed myself, um, I was actually a striker. But I found that when I first went there, you could see the vision that they had for me was to play me as a left midfielder. And although back then when you're younger, you kind of sulk as you do, because my mindset back then was a different kind of mindset to kind of how I have now. So back when I was playing, I was kind of shifted out to the left side of midfield. And as you do, as I say, you sulk and you think, why am I not being given a chance to kind of play as a striker? Now, as I'm involved in it, I mean, you don't really see at the time. You just think that they obviously prefer different players to myself, whether it be a player that was stronger, quicker, um, or just it could have been a many of things. I'll let you have your opinion on that. So as I said, I play left midfield, and I look at it this way. There was shortage of left-footed players, so because of my height as well, I think I'm about 5'8" now. But back when I was playing, I was quite slim. As I say, I would say I was 5 foot as well. So they kind of looked at it where, right, he's not 6 foot, he's not really tall, so we're just going to play him out left side of midfield. And bearing in mind there's a shortage of left-footed players as well, they kind of didn't really give me that kind of time to develop in a sense of trusting me, knowing that I'll get better to kind of prove them wrong. But I mean, I stuck it out for 6 years. Problem I had as well was that, and this is one of the main things I look at, even in football today, is representation and relatability. So representation, meaning having an agent, having someone looking out for your best interests. Um, I used to go Chelsea regularly. My dad was obviously a big supporter of mine. He used to go to every game, home or away. Um, he was the kind of person that he knew I was talented. Didn't really say too much because he kind of relied on ability to kind of get me somewhere. Um, and that's all well and good, but the way I look at it, I was I was more or less doomed from the start. I was gonna make it to a good level just um, based on many factors. As I said, like I would have needed to have been 6 foot in their eyes to be given a chance. I would have needed to be a lot stronger than I was, and even though I had pace, obviously they've looked at some other players as being faster than me. Um, so going back to relatability, as you can see now, you see a lot of foreign coaches that are in the system now, be it from the top end of the Premier League to the bottom. Back when I was playing, and I say relatability is a massive one. I was around a lot of British coaches who kind of saw the game in a certain way. So um, this country, as I say, this country is built on blood, sweat, and tears. So they respect players that like to run around a lot. And my style of play wasn't really that. My style of play was I was more of a flair player, and that's how I kind of see the game today. Like the kind of players that I kind of relate to are players who I think who would I have been playing today. As I said, I was a technical player. I was skillful. So I relied on that really. I didn't really look at the physical side of the game because that all comes with that all comes with experience really. You can always get yourself stronger by going to the gym. You can always work on your running by practicing sprinting. But with technical ability, you can work at it. But sometimes it's just a God given talent. It's something you're born with. So yeah, so as I said, I was at Chelsea for 6 years. I ended up leaving Chelsea. I say back in 2001 because it looked like I wasn't going to be offered a scholarship or a pro contract. Um, just the way just certain things went. So then I moved on to Tottenham. Was at Tottenham for 2 seasons. Got signed by Tottenham on schoolboy forms within the first training session. Um, Tottenham for me was a bit of a weird one. Uh, I felt to myself at the time I would definitely get offered something. I was in the same team as some of the professionals that are actually playing now, or was playing now. Charlie Daniels, who was at Bournemouth. Who else was there? You had um, another couple of guys. A guy called Charlie Lee. I think he ended up playing for Gillingham. But from my actual age group, no one really made it more professional on a regular basis. And there was a player called Phil Eiffel who was there. He actually played first team for Tottenham at right back. But I say no one from my actual age group actually made it. Now, same thing at Tottenham. I remember a conversation I had with my dad actually, and same thing again. Left-footed, wanted to play me out in the wing. Um, so I remember my dad saying to the manager at the time, which was an ex pro actually, who happened to be our manager, a guy called David Kerslake. I remember my dad saying to him, "What's Gavin's chances of playing as a striker?" And his first thing he said to my dad was, "We have two boys of England recognition." So meaning that these boys were recommended for England trials at that age, which would have been under 15 schoolboys. So basically, that's just telling me straight away that you're not really going to be given a chance, which is obviously quite frustrating because at the time, I say I was a striker. I believe I was better than both of them, but I wasn't really going to be given that chance. So it was a case of me just trying to do what I could do, and trying to make the most of my chances, really. So first season, as I say, I played left midfield. Was actually playing well, but as I said, I go back to relatability, which is a massive thing in football. Relatability and having people that look like you, that can relate to the kind of player that you are. But unfortunately, I was around a lot of British coaches at the time who just saw, but basically they respected players that would run around a lot. As I said, I was someone that was completely the opposite of that. Um, so going through the season, um, we would train, yeah, twice a week, and then on a Saturday, we would actually train in an area called Middleton House, which I think is not far from Tottenham's new training ground at the moment, which has obviously been improved. So the way I looked at it is that I wasn't really one of the favoured players. Even though on the pitch I was kind of proving that I had something to offer. I actually outscored the two strikers that were playing at the time from left midfield in half the amount of games. Um, and I say they were playing for the older age group, and I was just playing for my normal age group. And as I said, I outscored them from less games. I think the turning point came was that when back in school I done my work experience, and my work experience was to be a full-time scholar. So basically just practicing being an under 17 player for 2 weeks. And that's when I really excelled. I mean, I was training every day. Um, I can tell that I wasn't looking at a place. I was sometimes even one of the better players there, from when we were training. 'Cause I always believed to myself that being given a chance to train regularly, and just to just show what I can do. And in actual fact, that's what happened. I remember we played the under 19s, and bearing in mind I was only 15 or 16 at the time. We played an under 19 game, so I was playing for the under 17s, and I was given my chance to play up front. And I remember we beat the under 19s 2-1, which I had a hand in one of the goals and actually scored one myself. And I remember at the time the under 19 manager, which was a guy called Pat Holland, he actually spoke to the under 17 manager. I remember the conversation, overhearing the conversation he had with the under 17 under 17 manager, sorry, which was a guy called Jimmy Neighbour, which sadly passed away. I remember him going to him, "Oh, who's that player over there?" Which is obviously meaning myself. And he said, "Oh yeah, that's Gavin. He's come from the under 16s." And he said, "Oh, I think you should give him a chance to play for the under 17s." So that was the first chance I had to play for the older age group, which obviously meant a lot at the time to me, because I thought if I can obviously take my chance here, then who knows what might happen. I might actually get given my scholarship, and then obviously go on to have your pro contract from there. So I remember, in actual fact, we actually played West Ham, which contained obviously Mark Noble, who's actually, as I say, you can see the career that he's had. So I started the game. We eventually lost. I think it was 2-0. But first off, I started. I mean, there was things I could have done better, and there's things that I done well in the game. But ultimately, it was a chance that, in their eyes, I didn't take. So I come off after half time. At the time, I was a bit deflated. I thought that was a chance for me to kind of state my claim to try to be considered. Um, and ultimately, in their eyes, they obviously thought that I wasn't good enough, which is a bit of a shame. And then, as I say, from there, I kind of like was just playing for my own age group, still proving that I was good enough. I remember, in fact, actually, that we actually played MK Dons at the time, and by the way they picked the team, they played obviously in their eyes their strongest team to start the game. Obviously, I was on the bench, and then I think the two strikers that started the game, one of them scored, and then we come in at half time. Because actually back then we played 3/4 of, I think it was 3 20 minutes, and then they put me on for the second period, and then second period I come on. I actually scored two within like 6 or 7 minutes, and I thought, right, that's my opportunity now. I've done well. I've basically shown up the strikers that they keep rating, and as I say, I've scored two in like 7 minutes. Then the manager then comes over to me, and this is something that will never leave me to this day. He then come over to me and said to me, "I'm going to bring you off now because I think you find it too easy." Yeah. Back then I thought, I find it too easy. I mean, it doesn't really make no sense to me. But then when you think about it now, I've shown him up really, because I've long said throughout the season that I want to play as a striker, and you not really giving me that opportunity. And I say I've showed him up. So now it's a case of he's got to try obviously save face. So he's took me off, says to me it's too easy, and then I never got back onto the pitch again. And bearing in mind we had free 20 minutes. And then when it come down to the scholarship, obviously get off to the scholarship and the pro contract, surprise, surprise, there was no place for me. Now, something that really frustrates me to this day is I got into Tottenham first of all through some of you guys might obviously know him quite well, Mark Wright. Mark Wright's obviously actually my age. His dad was the one that got me into Tottenham, and the way it worked out is that you don't really see it at the time. It's not until you take a step back and you actually realise that's really what happened. So where they tried to play me left midfield, they had Charlie Daniels who played left back, and when it come to picking the scholarship, I was shitted out of the team, left midfield, and then Mark Wright, obviously, who's Mark Wright, who you see on TV today. He was then moved into left back, and that means no space in the team for me. And that's something that I think is it's a big problem in today's game in terms of relatability, as I keep saying, relatability and representation. So he was someone. He wasn't a bad player. Was he better than me? No, 100%. He wasn't more talented than me. I just think with him, he was given an opportunity, probably because of the way what he looked like. He was given an opportunity over me, and then obviously he gets given a scholarship. Doesn't make the grade in the end, and I look at it to this day. Not obviously you can never know what's going to happen in the future, but someone less talented than myself has been given an opportunity, and then someone like me has been left to just to fall by the wayside, really. I ended up going on trial to a couple of clubs after I got released from Tottenham. I went to Rushden and Diamonds on a trial basis, along with Southend and Cambridge United. Now, technically, I was good enough, but as I say, going back to the same thing, physically, I wasn't really ready to kind of compete, because a lot with these clubs, they obviously want to promote youth from their own, and they haven't really got time to see someone develop. If someone's physically mature now, then they would more likely put them in the first team at an early age. And as I say, I wasn't really developed then, so that's why I never really got picked, because none of them coaches can actually be honest and say it was because of my ability, because a lot of the players that was taken on were just physically developed at that age. Unfortunately for myself, played Ryman football for a bit, at Grays Athletic, and now I don't even play really. I played I play five-a-side really now, which is what I enjoy at Power League. So yeah, I mean that's what it is really. That was my career really. Bit of a shame, as I say, because I truly believe, if I had been growing up in this era, I would have had more opportunity, because as I say, there's more foreign coaches which look for a different kind of thing in football. And as I say, even if I was to if I went abroad, as I say, it comes back to representation. Obviously, who you know, kind of thing. So if I would have had that, I probably would have been playing professional in a different country. As I say, a country that focuses more on your actual technical ability. I look back though, I mean, I've had a lot of experiences. I played Stamford Bridge, I've played White Hart Lane, Amsterdam Arena, played so many different professional stadiums, and that's something that I can look back on and think to myself, I've done that. You know, didn't really work out to how I want it to be in the bigger picture. And this kind of links on to what I'm going to go on to now in terms of players that playing today. Relatability. If I just use someone like Paul Pogba, for instance. Now, Paul Pogba is one of the most hated football players in the world. Okay? His talent is undeniable. He's a World Cup winner. He's a Serie A winner. I think he's won Scudetto 4 times. He's won a couple of cups for United as well, but often gets criticised. Now, a lot of people can choose different reasons for why he's criticised. In my opinion, the reason Pogba's criticised is purely because if you look at Man United like this, now Man United throughout the years, I've always had they've never had a black player which is more or less been seen as the figurehead of the team. It's always been, even when they had Cole and York, they still had Beckham, they still had Giggs, they still had Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, Teddy Sheringham, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. If you look at Man United's team today, before the arrival of Bruno Fernandes, if you was to say who are the majority of the best players at United, invariably it would be the black players, black boys. So it'd be Pogba, Martial, Marcus Rashford. Obviously, Bruno's now come in, and Bruno's kind of broken up that kind of that threesome, should I say? But that's one of the main reasons. So when you get a lot of pundits these days, a lot of the media, a lot of the local Manchester fans, really and truly criticise Pogba. Some people will say Pogba's inconsistent. And yeah, Pogba probably does need to obviously improve on performances, but there's a bigger picture than just saying he's inconsistent. Is the team hasn't got a system to it. He's been played 1 minute, he's been playing defensive midfield, the next he's at right midfield, so he's not been settled. When he first came, the team was promised that the team was meant to be built around him with world-class players incoming. So that's where a lot of criticism comes from, because they say he's inconsistent. Now, for me, it's more of a case where he gets criticised just um, due to his different hairstyles. He's flamboyant. He doesn't really conform to what the narrative is for English players. He's outspoken, and he just does his own thing. And then it's just, and as I say, it's the same thing for someone like Martial. Because of Martial's style of play, because he's not always smiling, um, because he's not running around like a headless chicken at times as well. A lot of people have a lot to say about it. It's mainly coming from it mainly comes from pundits that were back in my day when I was playing, um, who can't really relate to players like that. So rather than them finding out, you know what I mean, what the player's really all about, they'll rather just say, "Oh, he's lazy," and that lazy tag has always been tagged with black players as it is anyway. Um, there was a saying that I remember watching Sky Sports News one time, and they were doing like an interview with some of the black players, and there's a saying: black players are only good when they come out in the sun, but when in the cold winter months, nowhere to be seen. And that kind of tag has always been labelled with black players that they're lazy, they're this, they're that, which is unfair. And as I said, going back to when I was playing, I kind of was tagged with that same kind of brush. I wasn't called lazy, but the way they kind of responded to me, the way they kind of looked at me, my style of play, the first thing they would think is lazy, because I wasn't running around basically. And that's the problem with today's football. It's like a lot of the players that get respected in football are ones that just run around, which to me is a bit of a joke. Um, yeah, so I think that's the problem that you see in football today. Relatability. You know, um, but yeah, and Pogba's a prime of Pogba, and even I say Anthony Martial are prime examples of this. Um, get a lot of criticism because they're at one of the biggest clubs in the world. Um, whereas someone like a Marcus Rashford, Rashford is a kind of different player to them. He runs around a lot. He's from Manchester as well, so he gets given an easy ride. Um, so he gets a bit of leeway. So yeah, so that's where it kind of comes from. It stems from not understanding what a player is really all about, and obviously they kind of look at what kind of player they was when they were playing, and then they kind of base their opinion off that, and you see it all too many times. And this is one of the main reasons why the English national team have struggled over the years, because if you look at players that were coming through, obviously Theo Walcott was hyped up because he was very, very fast. Um, you had Gabby Agbonlahor, who's another one. And not saying that these players are bad players, but there's one common denominator with a lot of them, and that's their pace. Very, very fast. You had Emil Heskey, who was very physical. You had a few other players as well who were just either very physical or very fast, and they've kind of like neglected the technical player back then. So it's actually quite refreshing now to see that the mindset has been changed. So if you look at the kind of players that are coming through now, like your Jack Grealishes, your Phil Fodens, your Mason Greenwoods, Bukayo Saka, who else is there? Um, James Maddison. If you look at players like that now, a lot of these players, Emil Smith Rowe, the other one playing for Arsenal, a lot of these players now are more technical players, which is good to see, because had they have been playing back in the era that I was, you probably wouldn't see them. You know what I mean? They'll probably because of their height, a lot of them their height as well, they would have just probably fallen away. Um, and obviously they've got good people behind them, obviously, to obviously get them in to a certain level. But my point is that the stature of the player was often criticised. As I said, a lot of people that have probably been in my shoes can probably obviously vouch for this as well. So yeah, yeah. So I'll say I hope you like the video. Remember to smash the like button and the bell notification, and subscribe to my channel. As I said, I'm going to keep bringing more content to you guys. I'm going to come back on a Monday. I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite players of all time and my reasoning for picking them. So that'll be a good video. I'll be doing that around 12 o'clock on Monday. So as I said, yeah, if you can just subscribe to my channel, press the like button, and I'll catch you guys on Monday. Later.